Because it's tied into the main story quest.
Yes. Agreed. Yeah. It's like
So happy it's tied into the main story quest. Like, I just, makes me so happy.
Welcome everybody to the Casually Hardcore Podcast, episode 25. We are thrilled to be able to welcome HealMeHarry onto the show. This is going to be a show about just Shadowbringers hype, everything that we're excited about for Final Fantasy XIV. Harry, welcome to the program. Tell everybody about yourself. Introduce yourself to the Casually Hardcore world.
Hello. Firstly, I am so hyped to be here. This is my first time being on a podcast, pretty much. So right. I am so excited to be here, just chatting about 14, chatting about Shadowbringers. If anyone doesn't know me, I'm HealMeHarry. I stream on Twitch. You can find me on Twitter as well. I've been playing Final Fantasy XIV since beta for Realm Reborn. Technically, actually. Okay. Technically, I played in 1.0.
Oh.
But I couldn't figure out how to pay my sub on the website. And I tried and I couldn't figure it out. So I stopped playing. I've been playing 14 for a long time. Rated in pretty much every tier. This game is my life.
So funny story, Chris's wife told Chris not to unsub from the game because anytime he would, it was an act of, I don't know what. It was just this 6-hour ordeal. Chris is like, I am trying to give them money. I give them money. The bank says no. We're worried that this is some kind of weird. It was this whole process. Right. And so Claire's like, Chris, just say sub. Just don't unsub. It's not worth me hearing you complain about it.
Bank of America knows I don't buy JRPGs. It's got to be false. So they protect me. So then I got to call the bank.
They're protecting your money.
I got to get meanwhile, I have had false purchases of other things. I'm like, well, obviously I didn't buy something in North Dakota yesterday. And I'm like, well, we don't know. It's I've never been to North Dakota. And so they protect me from buying that. Then I get my card turned back on. And then Square Enix took my money, but then my PlayStation copy of the game turned off. So I could only play on my Mac. And then I had to get that. And it was just this whole mess. And every time I've unsubbed from this game for even a single month, it has been this nightmare to turn it back on. Even just when I've gotten a new card. So I didn't mean for my sub to turn off. And I log in, it's you don't have playtime. And it's this whole mess. So my wife's put it on one of the cards that we never change. We never get updated. And I don't want to hear about it ever again. We will just $15 a month into the end of time.
You just have to say something.
Shouting at the computer, take my money, is so frustrating.
You're just gonna have to stay subbed forever. That's all it is.
I'm subbed until Square Enix shuts down.
Yeah, man. Until the servers shut down, you are a customer for life.
Customer for life. It's how did the game last for 70,000 years? His credit card just never expires. It's
servers aren't even on. I just still sub.
There was a lady I heard about a story the phone company was leasing her just a handset phone, and then when she passed away, her grandkids came in and they're like, she's paid tens of thousands of dollars for a phone that she could have walked down to Walmart and purchased for $10. And it's the company was you back in the day when we leased phones, we just so that's Chris. It's at some point his grandkids are gonna be why is he getting charged?
Fantasy?
Yeah.
Why is a portion of your Social Security check going there?
If Yoshi P will still be around at that time, so
yeah,
the game will just keep running.
Everything we can do.
I don't think he's aged a day for how hard he works.
I don't think
he'll probably look younger than me.
I think he might have gained a couple of extra rings, but that's about it, really.
So well.
So with this podcast, guys, you can find us on Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, and SoundCloud. This is going to air on Monday, the week of the Shadowbringers early access launch. So if you're watching this on YouTube,
soon.
Oh, I know. If you're watching this on YouTube, guys, you just got to make it 5 more days. It is here. I cannot wait I seriously cannot wait for you guys to step into the first.
So ridiculously soon. I can't believe how fast it's come up. Like I was at Paris Fan Fest, and I was thinking in my head like it's ages away. I shouldn't get too excited about it. You know, I've got another like 5 months to wait, and to think that this week for YouTube, but next week we're gonna be playing it.
Yeah,
is just
yeah.
I just.
Yeah, have you been following the countdown on the North American Fan Fest where it's just like 17, 16, 15?
Yes.
It's like, and it's counting down towards the second. So it's like, haha, we're actually ahead because we pre-ordered.
That threw me so bad. I was like, what do you mean it's 17 days away? Have I done my maths wrong?
If you guys have not pre-ordered and you're watching this on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday, be sure to get your pre-order in. I'm hitting the desk because I'm too excited. That way you can get access for the 28th if you're able to play. So I would highly recommend it. Even for the earring alone, it is totally such a really, really good deal. So get your pre-order on because if you find yourself with time this weekend, and as long as we have hopefully no like crazy DDoS attacks, it should be a pretty awesome and epic weekend. We had problems with Stormblood, but I think a lot of that had to deal with the data center. So I think that they've taken a lot of steps to kind of alleviate that. So it should hopefully be pretty.
The world visit system should hopefully help if it holds up, so that people can go to other servers and stuff like that.
I think one of the best tests on the world visit though is that we've seen literally that I've seen queues on all the servers because the hype is bringing people back in. But I cut you off, Harry. Go ahead.
I don't know. You're right. I was just gonna say, like, just to reiterate what you were saying about people pre-ordering that pre-order time, those 3 days or whatever. Even if you can only play a little bit. The sense of community in those few days is just incredible. Like what makes a new expansion so exciting is not, yes, there's the content and that's great and that's awesome, but it's logging in to Limsa and there's just people just everywhere, just doing random stuff, talking, shout chats alive, like say chats alive, like everyone's just getting involved and having a good time. And it just, the release of an expansion is the only time when you get that real sense of community. So if you've never gone in for a pre-order before, I would recommend, even if the servers end up crashing for the first 24 hours or something, it's still worth it.
Yeah, I would also say as a tip, if for some reason that happens, have a backup plan, have another game that you want to play, have something to fill that you would also enjoy doing in case that happens, just so you don't end up spamming or just constantly clicking in frustration, because that's just not going to be a good time. Now, I honestly, I have the expectation that things will go fairly smoothly with the world visit system, how that launched. The fact that it's not like, oh, people are kind of on break. Like, no, there's more people playing today than there were 2 months ago, and the world visit's live. It seems stable. Like, honestly, that's really quite a testament to how hard the team behind the scenes works. What we don't see going on, like, oh wow, it's live and oh, everything's great. Perfect. On that note, I do want to say, like, we do have a partner with Exit Lag. If you guys haven't checked that out, we have a link in the description below. You can use the code DOWORK for 20% off. You get 3 free days. So if you're having some lag issues, maybe give them a shot. Click the link, check it out for yourself, and see if that helps improve your overall ping. I've heard from a lot of people within our community that have used it because of this link, and it says they've already told me that it's helped them out dramatically. But I would say take advantage of your 3 days and see if it helps. For me, I'm close to the data center, so like I'm using it for Lost Ark, which basically means I have to use it as a form of a VPN. Oh yeah, I'm waiting for Lost Ark, man. I
can't wait. We're not talking about that today, but oh my goodness.
We'll get you back. We'll get you back for a Lost Ark session.
I'm so excited.
Oh, dude. It's the Lost Ark Final Fantasy hour, everybody.
Here we go.
Anyway, so with the business out of the way, check them out, and we hope that it works. And if it doesn't, it's 3 days, no big deal, nothing off your back. And then if it does, let us know. We'd like to make sure that our partnership is a good, positive thing for the community. So with that, guys, expansion prep, right? So okay. By the time this airs, but regardless, we're like 10 days out. What are we doing to be ready? Like, Harry, let's start with you. Like, What is your checklist? Have you completed it? Are you still trying to get some last things finished up? Break it down. What do you got? What do you got on the docket?
I've been getting there. I had a little kind of mental list of things that I wanted to get done. I wanted to finish 3 Eureka weapons. because it's a bit of a tradition for me. I did 3 Realm Reborn weapons in a Realm Reborn. I did 3 Animas in Heaven's Word. I wanted to do 3. So I managed to finish that off just yesterday. I finished my Red Mage weapon yesterday.
You're also playing Nier, right?
Pardon?
You're also playing Nier, right?
Yeah, I want to try and get through Nier before Shadowbringers so that I can understand the 24-man better. It's such a massive game though. I don't know if I'm gonna. It is side quests, the video game. I don't know if I'm gonna make it through, and I'm a completionist, so like this is getting crazy. So I want to try and do that, but obviously everything is 70. My Samurai is 69, and then that's it, and then I'm done. Very good. Blue Mage was the other thing.
Yeah.
I'm missing some of the
47.
I'm missing some of the primal skills. They're so hard to grind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just
rates are so low.
I just don't feel the drive to do it. I'm too excited for the new stuff that's coming to focus on Blue Mage. So
Blue Mage is 5.1, so the update to Blue Mage comes in 5.1, which for me was a little bit of a bummer. I was hoping it would be like the 5.5 or the 5.05, like the mid-tier kind of update, but it kind of makes sense. 5.1 is actually already starting to sound like it's a massive drop in content, new game plus, new PvP, new like it's like, oh yeah, this is coming. All this stuff is coming in 5.1, so it's
like a second round of expansion.
Yeah, well, and it kind of feels like things that probably just weren't ready. Then it's like, yep, and then so 5. It's gonna feel like a pretty epic 6 months of content, I think, from the schedule, because you got the story, you got the dungeons, we got the raid. Coming up. Sorry, but yeah. So you've been doing Nier. You got your 3rd relic weapon. Anything else from your checklist?
Just finishing off Samurai to 70, and then I think I'm just gonna sit back for this last week and not play too much. I'll probably log in maybe like an hour or something before the servers go down as like a farewell. Thank you, Stormblood. Good memories. Thank you very much. But yeah, outside of that, I think I'm going to try and step back from it from a little bit just to really kind of be fresh when Shadowbringers launches. So,
Chris, how about you? How's your expansion prep coming along?
So I wanted to have minor at cap. I don't think it's going to make it because I want to let my rest experience build up a little bit. So I'll probably I'll probably hit 65 today, and then I'll be done. And that'll be the last experience I gain pre-Shadowbringers. I have a little bit of inventory cleanup to do, get my retainers sorted, make sure that everything that I want to get rid of is at least listed, for anybody that wants to do some last minute acquiring of items. If they want to if they've got a crafter they want to finish up and I have the materials, I want to be sure that's on the market board. And then not much else. I mean, I may log in every couple days to kind of keep my retainers doing things. One of my retainers isn't even at cap yet. And so it's just been slow to level just because that process is really slow. And it's the problem is they were tied behind my botanist, which I just capped recently. So they had been sitting so long at their level experience cap. So just keep doing that. I'm going to take a lot of rest from the game. I haven't been playing much. When we did maps, I think last week, I couldn't remember how to play my warrior because I'd been doing gathering for a month. And so it was my first battle content. And I was like, oh no, where are my abilities? I know I have an ability that does this thing. What button is that on? So I may log in a day or two before to just run a roulette to remember where my buttons are. But that's about it. I'm not going to try to be...
You'll go in to remember where all your buttons are, and then Shadowbringers will come out and half of them will be gone.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, Warrior didn't feel that different. Warrior felt largely the same. So I plan on leveling through the story as Warrior, and we'll get into that in our main topic, kind of what the plan is. But that's kind of my plan. I mean, I know, Harry, you're taking a lot of rest. You're being pretty disciplined about your stream schedule. I was on there the other day, and you're like, I gotta go. And you were having fun, and we were all hanging out, we watched that poor robot get stabbed a million times.
Yeah.
And
such an emotional game.
it was dark. So yeah, I don't know. I think rest is an important part of it, and knowing kind of what your version of the expansion is going to be. I know that for probably the 3 of us, we're going to play an unhealthy amount in the first week.
Very true.
And so prep involves a lot of making sure that my grocery shopping's done, that the house is clean, that I've gotten lots of sleep, and all these things, just because otherwise next week's going to just fall apart.
Yeah, I've been getting a lot of exercise. just a lot of exercise and stretching, just because it's like, and I'm also trying to make sure that as a part of it, and we'll talk about it in the main topic, like trying to make sure that there's breaks for me to stretch, run, sleep.
Yeah.
Finding good times.
Yeah, we were I was talking about it literally today on stream, like as like a checklist. Make sure you have a plan for food. Make sure you have a water bottle. You have a water bottle, have water access at your desk at all times. And make sure that you're sleeping. That's like the three things that just to look after yourself, because it's exciting and it's awesome, but it's not worth, getting sick or, damaging your health for it. So look after yourself, please, gamers, fellow gamers.
Anything else you're working on, Chris, as a part of your preparation for the for next week?
No, I mean, mostly as I kind of scale back the amount of 14 in my life, like I'm not scaling back the gaming totally in my life. So what I've actually been doing is in World of Warcraft, I want to play Classic, but I want to play it on WoW token time. And so I've been grinding out. I have one WoW token bought, which gets me through September 15th. And I'm coming up on the amount of gold where I'm ready to buy another WoW token, which will get me through October 15th. Because for those of you know, I'm trying to transition to where my WoW time is paid for by WoW tokens instead of paid for by a sub. And so I've got to finish up. I'm about 3/4 of the way to the amount of money that about 3/4 of the gold for the next token, and that'll cover me. That'll give me at least 6 weeks of Classic to kind of gauge is this. And I assume about halfway in there, I'll be like, okay, I got to go grind another token, or I'll be like, you know what, nostalgia was great. I appreciate you letting me relive a much younger time in my life, but I can live without WoW Classic. So we'll just have to see what that works out like.
You guys see the Easy Allies like interview where they're like asking Yoshi P like in regards to like Final Fantasy XIV 1.0 server as it ties to Classic, and his response. It was.
It's very different than an 11 remake, right?
Well,
so
yeah, exactly. My thought is
that's a very different thing. Yeah.
Yeah. In my mind, I'm like, no, not 1.0. Like
Classic
11 remaster 11, and I think people will love that. That 11 is to my Classic. 1.0 to 2.0 is, oh, I'm sorry, here's my apology.
Yeah.
Now, like there was things.
If they did like a re-release of the Classic servers of 11, it would be very different. That would people would probably love that, to be honest.
Yeah, and I think and if they were able to kind of remove some of the play online, like there's some work there, because like when you think of the play online, like one of the challenges 11 faces, and we hear this a lot of the times, is that like it literally feels like you have to climb a mountain, and then once you've done that, then the game opens up and they're like, there's this beautiful game there, and you have that investment because you're like, I climbed this mountain. The problem is the mountain is before you do like anything in the game. Like it's like, okay, like you've literally like, okay, we're gonna like, sure, we're gonna let you play this game, but we're gonna beat you up for like an hour, and then afterwards you're gonna have the best experience of your life. Trust me. Like, I don't know, like this is very like it is not very helpful for new players to get into it, and also the technology behind those systems has not aged like in a way that like with WoW Classic, the challenge that they're doing is that they've had to do that also on the new framework. Here's like this security issue that we have to have patched. It wasn't in Classic, but it's there now. Okay, we're gonna have this login, kind of concept. And so I think for an 11 thing, like there's probably a lot more work done. However, I just saw a video and it really made me mad, and I'm smiling because it's like that kind of like okay, this is possible. Some guy's been working on his spare time on Final Fantasy XI in Unreal Engine 4, and it looks freaking phenomenal. Like it's like it showed off like doing some battle and fighting like a pug, and I'm like, okay, like if this guy can do it like every couple, like just tooling around with this every couple of months, like how mind bending would it be if Square decided to do it?
Now, I know we're getting off topic here, but there was a panel set about WoW Classic at the last BlizzCon that addressed that, because there were private servers running, and so people were like, it's not that hard. A bunch of hobbyists did it. He said there's a huge difference because he has an exploit where they can get personal information. We have your credit card. Yeah. He does not. So like if there's an exploit where somebody can cheat in game, people are going to be really mad if they pay for a game and somebody has a duplication cheat, as opposed to him like, what are you going to do? It's a hobbyist server. So
Exactly.
We are held to a different set of standards, and so the cost is in that delta between the hobbyist version running and the perfection that we expect from Blizzard,
A
Square,
service game that you're actually paying for. Same thing concept with 14. It's that there's mathematically things that we just don't factor in to it. Like, oh, you have HR, you have you have healthcare, you got all these things that you have to deal with, that it's like, okay, like games don't cost like that developer. You got to that times all this, times marketing, times like just making sure that if something goes wrong, the company doesn't crater.
Square Enix has a lot of cogs in a company.
Sure. Yeah, as big companies go, and it's like, okay.
Yes.
The okay, so expansion prep. That was a fun. That was a fun tangent. Like, so expansion prep for me, I've completed pretty much everything. I've done all the side quests. I've gotten all the jobs except for culinarian. I don't consider that worth my time. But somebody did make me. I'm sorry. I just. My wife is my culinarian, and so she is. And maybe there's just a sense that I love that she filled that role, so I never felt with the need to. So I've literally never cooked anything in game. Never, I'm level 16 and that's just off of like, oh, I have this food. Oh, there's a turn-in for that. I'll just turn it in. But somebody made me kind of a leveling kit, so I might go turn that in. My plan is, like, I'm on my 2-week hiatus. Like, I always try to, like, I advise, because, like, with Heaven's Word, I thought I was going to take 2 weeks off, and I thought it was going to be the 2 weeks prior to the expansion going live. What I did not recognize was that the hype brought me back in, and so I kept playing. So like, I played through the play and break that I had, and after I finished the Heaven's Word story and everything, I just was burnt out. We weren't on YouTube at the time, so it ended up just being like I took 4 months off of the game. Like, I was like, okay, and I came back with 3.1 and had a really good time. With this, I'm on my break right now. Been playing Destiny 2. I'm playing Nier. Trying to, like, same kind of concept before 5.1. I want to make sure that it's like I have some really good context, because I tell you guys right now, like, for as much as I just didn't think, I think I always kind of try to judge this. I think Heaven's Word was probably the best Final Fantasy story of any of the games. Like, I rate that game one of the highest in my opinion. I really connected with it. I think it was hard. It would be hard anything following that up. So I think some of the things that I hit Stormblood on, I was like, I really just loved Heaven's Word far more. I liked how they did that differently here. I like the story. Stormblood, okay, but now with Shadowbringers, it's like I think it has the potential to really just kind of capitalize off of everything we've been working on in the last 9 years since the game service started. So anyway, so that all being said, like, I'm literally just like so hyped, and the standout for Stormblood was the Return to Ivalice raid. Like, holy crap, that was the best raid in story. So that I was just and so I want to make sure that I can have those connections with the next one. Even if I don't think I was a fan of like, I love Tactics. Tactics is such an incredible standout game. But even if with Tactics, having played that made that better. But even if I hadn't played it, I think it still was just a really awesome kind of thing to connect to. So anyway, all side quests done, all jobs leveled. I am ready to rock. I'm ready to step into the new world and go from there. And so yeah, this is my kind of my week off, my last week off, and I'll be back. My thought is I'll be back to play 14 next week. I need to do some inventory cleanup. I want to make sure that that's all cleaned up. I want to make sure all my armory chests are, just straight, like, ready to go. And that's the last bit of the prep that I have to do for Shadowbringers. So that kind of wraps up that. Anybody have any thoughts on prep that we like? Kind of, we want a round table.
I want. Let's talk about Shadowbringers.
Yes.
Just one thing really fast that I just want to touch on is that, like, a lot of people won't have played Nier, and I know there is quite a lot of people that are a little bit disappointed that it's the whole 24-man is going to be around a game that's not Final Fantasy. Whether you've played Nier or not, you're going to enjoy the 24-man still. They're not going to write a story into Shadowbringers that you have to have played an entire other game to even understand.
Yeah.
You're going to be able to understand what's going on. They're going to explain it. Yes, you will pick up on more things if you've played Nier, but you're still going to have a good time with the new 24-man, I think, either way. I hadn't played Tactics for Return to Ivalice, and I still had a ball with it. I'd played 12, but not Tactics, so yeah.
Yeah, 12. Oh, so good, and it's awesome they had that remastered because it's like if you were looking for something to kind of take a break from, 12 is an excellent game to kind of dive into. In the meantime, okay, Shadowbringers. This is I worry that I don't want to set people's expectations too high. I was talking about John Wick with my brother, and me and my brother-in-law are really big fans of that series. Like 1 and 2, we have yet to see 3. We're gonna hopefully go see it this week. And I was like, and he's like, is it good? And I was like, dude, like it's wait, it sucks. Like it's horrible. You should see it, but it's the worst. Like it's okay. And it's like I'm like, oh, okay, should I? Because I was about to just start gushing about that movie, and it's like, oh, maybe if I end up making and setting expectations too high, that it's a disservice to the movie. And no matter what, like it could be the best movie ever, and it's like, oh, it was sold as, you know, like it's going to change my worldview on everything, you know, like that's kind of the fear, but that's where I'm actually sitting with Shadowbringers.
Right.
Like,
that's a dangerous place to be, friend.
It is very dangerous, but it's that for me, everything we've seen, and then the story lore trailer, and we're not going to talk spoilers here, just FYI for people who might be listening and they're like, oh, you know, like I'm not caught up. It's like, no worries. But like for me, Shadowbringers right now feels like the conclusion, or essentially kind of the landing of 9 years of story, world building, character building. I think that people who don't like the story, I'm kind of concerned from that perspective, because I think they're about to be hit with so much narrative. Because if they don't, they're going to continue the story, so there will be like a 6-0, a 7-0. But that's going to probably be like, okay, that's concluded some of this stuff, and they're going to thread in some new mysteries and some new things that we're going to have to go off of. But like I honestly, like I can't seem to divorce myself from the expectation of answers. I cannot seem to like, okay, we're gonna figure out at the end of this. I want to, if we don't know what the Echo is, if we don't know what Hydaelyn and Zodiark are, if we don't have some form of conclusion, there's no way that I'm gonna be positive about it. However, like there's no way they can't. Like they've already teased it in the trailer, and so I'm like, okay. Anyway.
just feel I think just go in with a little bit of an open mind, because it has been said in the past that the current story arc isn't going to be completed until 7.0 onward.
When did they say that?
This was quite a while back. They had the story is written all the way up until 7.0.
Right, they do have it all the way through that. But yeah, I'm talking about the Zodiark arc of that story.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure what the exact wording was on it, but I personally don't think the whole thing is going to end here. I think we've still got a bit more to go. I think we're going to learn heaps, learn so much, but I don't think there's going to be any kind of like conclusion to it.
Well, let me rephrase like from that. Like it doesn't need to like the end of the chapter and now we're going to go on to something else. But it's like, if we still don't understand, if there is still some form of mystery of Hydaelyn and Zodiark, and you know, it's like I really want some of those. I need some of those questions answered in that regards. And honestly, the trailer itself, just in its tease and whether we can trust the source or not, like it either did a disservice for the expansion, but they've also said they cannot show so much of the other stuff because there's so much lore and story. Like in the Dungeons trailer, they had to scale that down. They were like, okay, like we typically show more, but there's so much lore and story that's baked into even just visibly the zones and the enemies. Like we're not doing that. Eden itself, like we can't show you more because it's so like, you know, like so spoilery.
Because it's tied into the main story quest.
Yes. Agreed. Yeah. It's like
so happy it's tied into the main story quest. Like I just makes me so happy. Like Binding Coil being tied in was just so much better than Alex and Omega Way. So I'm super pumped for that being tied into there.
What's your absolute like if you could pick like a handful of things, like what are the things that we've already seen, that we've seen and learned from the interviews and in the gameplay stuff and in the jobs, like what are, like, you pick whatever you want, but what are the things that you feel like are just the most exciting for you right now?
For me, Vieira still have me so freaking excited. Yes, I'm sad there's no male bunnies, but Vieira have such a special place in my heart, like just from my childhood playing Tactics Advanced and stuff, and then playing 12 when I got older as well. Like I've always loved them as a race, and I've since A Realm Reborn, I've always been like, oh, it'd be so cool if we could play a Vieira. And everyone always told me it's never gonna happen, it's never gonna happen, it's never gonna. And now we're doing it, right? One of my friends owes me a Fantasia because he bet me that we would not ever get Vieira, but we're getting them. So Vieira definitely. The other thing that I'm really excited for actually is that all of the jobs seem to have a super strong aesthetic identity now. Obviously I haven't played on them, so I don't know what they feel like, but just the effects, the look of their abilities, the animations, they're all so strong now. They all have such strong identities, especially the healers have really strong, unique paths that they're going down with their animations and style now. And that just, I thought that we already had that, but we have that so much more now. So that has me super excited. The design of the Sin Eaters, I think, is just so cool. Like, I understand that they're essentially undead things that they've just painted white, and I get that. But, like, just the concept of them being these angelic, undead things, just, I don't know. There's something about it that's really drawing me into that. And then the last thing I'm super excited for is to see how healing is going to work, because we've seen new actions, and there's quite a hefty change to healers' kits. How that's going to play out in actual combat has me very, very interested. It could go really well or really bad. So we're just going to have to wait and see.
So the class identity is something that I know got asked on a lot of the interviews. I don't know how many interviews you've had a chance to go seek out. He gave 37. I don't even know if those were all in English. I have not been able to find them all yet, because if you think about if each one got to ask 5 to 10 questions and you do 37, there's at least 200 questions out there somewhere that have given us some glimpse. And even if it's the same question asked a different way, that seems to get a different response out of Yoshida that elaborates further, because obviously some of these questions he responds, he'll talk for 4 or 5 minutes, but like that's still not 4 or 5 minutes on like, what do you think about class design is not even a drop. So like, what class does that make you excited to play most? I know you've healed a lot on stream.
Yeah, well, I mean, healing is where my main playtime is. I started as a white mage. My first raid group, I was a scholar. I mean, I've raided as all of the tanks, and I've raided as all of the healers throughout my time. I am going to be going through first with white mage, because it's the class that's kind of I feel the most attached to. Not necessarily because I feel like it's going to be the most fun, but I'm definitely the most attached to it. I also think that aesthetically, it got some really nice changes. The look of the new DPS spells over the earthy stuff, it just feels more classic white mage now, as opposed to the 14th version of white mage. But don't get me wrong, it was fine, but I like this style a bit better. But honestly, after white mage, I have no clue what I'm gonna do, because there's so many of them that I'm so interested in. Ninja looks freaking incredible with the Kasatsu, literally changing the animation on your ninjutsus. Like, that is so cool. I love Gunbreaker, Dancer. There's just so much. I don't know what I'm gonna level second. I have no idea. I can't pick. Don't make me pick, because I can't.
That's gonna definitely be a call, like, you know, that you make, obviously, like at that time. Like, so you're gonna take it, obviously white mage first. Then you know, like for those 2 weeks, so like we have 2 weeks until Eden drops, and then 2 more weeks till Eden Savage. Like, is that something like you're going to try to dive into from that perspective?
Yeah. I've always dived straight into the raids. I have a group together set up for Shadowbringers. We're going to be going in pretty mid-core. We're not going to be doing anything hardcore. It's just 3 days a week kind of thing. But I'm already locked in as the white mage for the party. So No matter what, I'll be raiding on White Mage to start. I'll probably end up leveling Astro quite early because my co-healer is a Scholar. I'll probably end up leveling Astro quite early just in case there's something horribly wrong with White Mage, and I end up having to play Astro, and that's fine if that's the case. But yeah, I'll definitely be jumping straight into the raids. Eden looks, I don't know, maybe it's because we haven't gotten heaps of it, like heaps of information or heaps of visuals from it. Maybe it's the enigma of it all, but I'm so keen to see what's all about.
So you're saying concern about healing. You're talking about leveling up a secondary healer because you're worried that White Mage could be kind of dead on arrival. Like what really concerns you about the changes to healing without, like, what does the content need to look like to match what we know about the class changes?
The way that damage works, the way that the tanks take damage, that the party takes damage is gonna need to be different. If the way that we receive damage currently continues on into Shadowbringers, healing is going to be boring as all hell. we have now so many tools in which to heal with that are incredibly strong. Not even just the healers though, tanks can heal now. Lots of DPS jobs also got given healing utility. If healing is the way it is now, it's not going to be a good time because DPS as a healer now is literally keep your dot up and then spam one ability, right? So healing is going to need to be more of an involved thing, and I'm really hoping that's what it becomes. That damage is a more frequent thing on the whole party, and you are going to have to be utilizing your cooldowns, and hopefully we're going to be using globals to actually heal in Shadowbringers. Like that would be really nice to not just be able to heal through the whole thing with just off globals. But it's just going to have to wait and see. Really, like if the damage isn't higher, like I've said, then White Mage's, the amount of healing that White Mage can do now is going to be pointless.
Right.
So I would just go on to Astro because the cards will bring more damage because every card is damage now.
Yeah, and that's the risk, absolutely, where it's like, okay, that's we want to increase our output of damage, and since it's not going to come from a White Mage casting damage abilities, that if we see mathematically that Astrologian that's where we see the bigger jump in the overall team DPS. Like then it becomes then we start to see problems with the balance numbers. That's where we fall back to
the whole thing of you choosing your healers based on how much damage they bring rather than how good they are at healing.
Right.
Which is, in one regard, it's just the way that the game's designed, and it's not necessarily flawed. That's just the design. But I know there are a lot of people that would really love if we were forced to kind of actually think about healing a bit more.
Yeah, I think it's going to be neat to see how it plays out, because the only way to judge that, we couldn't judge that off of, of our experience hands-on, because it's like, 73 content, but it's like the content makes up the other half of the equation. Now, I got a question. What about, obviously we get this a lot, people ask about it. We have tank mounts. What's your stance on healer mounts? We have literally one at 30 for White Mage, so you have the unicorn. But would you want to see more healer mounts as a part? Because honestly, if this forces people out of kind of the healing role, and tanks is easier, I would see that this is something they would need to kind of help to do to keep some form of balance.
Yeah, I mean, obviously they felt like they needed to add tank mounts to help balance out queue times and stuff, because people like me, I literally only do casual content on tanks now because I want the mounts, not because I enjoy playing tanks. I think if they see that there's enough demand for healers in queues, then perhaps they will do it. I don't think we necessarily need them. I don't know. I don't really have a super strong opinion about it. I think if they added it, it would be great. I think it would be great. Like, why not? Hey, get people playing healers more. Give people more of an incentive to queue as a healer or a tank over a DPS. I think the only thing that will have them doing that is if the healer queue is really dried up, which you never know. It could happen considering we didn't get a new healer.
Mm-hmm.
There is every possibility that the healer queue might not be great going into Shadowbringers. So
would Adventure in Need or something like that be able to kind of help with any kind of balance? And what would drive that? What would be your thoughts to what would drive people into that for the Adventure in Need?
Adventure in Need bonuses are look. It depends. If they're going to be doing Materia 7 and they're going to be giving away Materia 7s for Adventure in Need, then bam, you've got it. The queue's going to be great for everybody, to be honest.
What about like Adventure in Need mount? Like, would you think that would help drive it?
Okay. You know what? That would probably be a better way to incentivize people playing things rather than just throwing in the healer mounts. That's actually a really good idea. Having an achievement for you've done X amount of roulettes as the Adventure in Need, and there's a mount tied to there. I mean, I suppose that's kind of what they've done with Mentor Roulette, because Mentor Roulette throws you into anything. Mentor Roulette, you have to do 2,000.
I've heard some fun and crazy stories about like I end up like, oh, I'm kind of nervous about it because you get thrown. People will queue in for like some extreme fight that they've never done before at like the end low gear level, and you're like, well, I guess this is
it happened.
I guess this is why I'm here.
I mean, they're changing the mentor system too, right? Like they're moving the goalposts, which at least sounds like, okay, at least go do these role quests, at least go. I don't know how you fix the tone of mentors, right? There's no part of making them play X dungeons or get X commendations that makes them be like helpful. And anytime you put a reward to incentivize them, there's going to be people who just do it for the reward. And if you don't do a reward, you may not like, why would I choose a mentor? So I don't know. Like, I know that Brian, you've got mentor status, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I don't, because I haven't met the requirements. Do you guys think that you'll want to like do whatever's necessary to keep that mentor status between 5.1 and 5.2?
Yeah, it's just by playing the game and enjoying the game's content, like I'm naturally going to hit that. I think they put the goalpost out there, but at the end of the day, like having played the game for so many years, like when they announced what the requirements were, I looked down, I said, I've met them, so we're good. Like it's not like something I've ever had to chase. It's always just something that it's like, by playing and enjoying this game like I do, there I am. And I've always, like, beyond the status, like I've obviously, honestly, one of the things of the founding principles of Worked a Game was like, how can we help people? Like I would create these personal guides for these people who needed help. Like I'm struggling with this, and I'd make a guide for them individually, and then somebody's like, you should post this to YouTube, and I go, okay. Like that's one of the things. Chris and I like doing a podcast. No one's watching it, but we're having fun. And then it's like someone's like, "You should take that and put it on YouTube." I go, "All right, I'll do that." And here it is. And now we're talking to HealMeHarry.
The first controller guide might as well have been, "Hey Harry, how's your day going? Let's talk about my Paladin controller layout." Like we really did build them because like an individual person requested this guide, and we're like, Harry requested a guide. I'm going to make a guide just for Harry. Oh, other people want to watch this? That's crazy. Like, that's awesome. Your channel was like a non-scalable, okay, we have 100,000 subscribers. We have to make 100,000 videos. Like it was never going to work. The original plan was like one request, one video. That's the math.
But I mean, it's true that it's the same with I say with all of content creation. And I say this to anyone that's getting into it, is that like, if you're making content, there's going to be someone that enjoys it, and because you're taking content from one person and that they need it, there's a very high chance that there's lots of other people that need that exact same information. So that's actually really interesting to hear how you guys like started and all that. I didn't know that.
So what about same question to you on from Chris's perspective? Like, what are your thoughts
on mentor? On mentor, the mentor changes.
Yeah.
Do you think the mentor changes are going to help mentors be a better influence on the game?
I think if someone is going to be a good mentor, they're going to be a good mentor regardless of if there's any rewards or anything involved. Like if someone is the type of person that's inclined to help other people, they're going to help other people anyway. I think the mentor roulette is great for helping fill holes in queues and getting people into content that they might not otherwise have been able to get into. But beyond that, yeah, that's kind of all it really is. I mean, it was the same for me. Like when they announced Mentor, I was already a mentor, and I was like, I like helping people, but I'm playing on a JP server. None of them can understand me. Like I'm just doing this for rewards in the end, because they couldn't understand me anyway. So yeah, I don't think it's going to change much, but we'll see.
So you talked about obviously healing as a white mage in Final Fantasy XIV. Have you healed in other games as well? And if so, what other games?
I've healed at endgame for WoW, and then I've played a bunch of other MMOs really casually. But WoW would be the other one where I have the most experience in terms of MMOs. And anyone that plays WoW or has played WoW will know that healing in that game is entirely different to 14. You can barely.
More what this is headed towards, like simplifying healers in their bar is something that like people assume that less abilities on the bar means the content is simpler, but like I can't beat Super Mario and there's only like 2 buttons, so like less buttons doesn't make content easier. Yeah. So like in WoW, it's a lot more of a game of whack-a-mole. Like the idea of topping off your party, there's a huge amount of talk about overhealing, because if you're overhealing, you're wasting globals, and you don't necessarily have the globals to spare. There are even fights where the boss mechanics affect the way healers behave. It affects mana regen, or it affects, like, there's all these different mechanics. And so like healing in WoW is a totally different experience. I mean, is there anything from WoW when it comes to healing that you hope Shadowbringers is bringing in, or do you want to just keep those as separate as possible?
I think one thing that I did want to see, and I hope that we have, I obviously you never really know until you have your hands on the game, but I'm really hoping that, I think what WoW does really well with healing is that you have so many different classes that heal, but they all do it in a really unique way. It's not about, oh, this job can do all these things that this other job can't do. Yes, they have specialties, but for the most part, they can all heal, but they all go about it in unique and interesting ways. And that was one of the things that I was hoping that Shadowbringers would bring. And from what I've seen, it looks like they're definitely heading down that path. They seem to have a lot stronger identities. Just to be clear, White Mage being a regen healer is not an identity. Scholar being a mitigation healer is not an identity. It's a pigeonhole, and allowing them to only do one thing, right? Giving White Mage more mitigation and giving Scholar more regens does not take away their identity. Their identity is how they're played. And I feel like that's playing the 2 jobs is going to be so incredibly different now. So I am hoping that Shadowbringers does incorporate a bit of that. And I am also hoping that it incorporates a bit of the healing as a bit more of a constant upkeep rather than burst heal, DPS for 30 seconds, burst heal. But what I don't want to happen is healing passing, which is essentially what World of Warcraft is you're judged on how good of a healer you are by how high, it's basically DPS for healers. How high heals can you put out throughout a fight? I really don't want healing in 14 to turn into that. I really dislike that as a concept. It's so strange to me. So I do hope that we keep the concept of a good healer is doing the minimal amount of healing they need to, and then contributing to DPS.
Yeah.
But
do you have any
not
thoughts?
As intense.
Do you have any thoughts on the skill gap essentially then between like normal and savage content as it relates to the healers themselves? Because that's something we've talked about. We talked about with Zepla as well, and she's very passionate and very kind of concerned about it. The community is that we see it going in one of 2 ways. If it's so tuned for heals per second that you might have, kind of more casual healers struggle to keep up. But if it's not tuned, then you could have those more savage, those more like, that skill gap bored out of their minds to where they're like, yep, everybody's good, but then I just spam this one button, and then every 15 seconds or 30 seconds, I hit another button, and et cetera, et cetera. Like, what's your thoughts regarding that skill gap? Are you concerned? I mean, there's no way we can know. So this is this is going into it. Like we'll find out. Our future selves will know, but here a week after this podcast goes live if it's a thing. But what's your thoughts?
I think that endgame healers or high skill healers are going to be incredibly bored in not Savage content. That's what I think. And to be fair, healing currently in dungeons and healing currently normal raids is not hard. You put a regen up, you use a Tetra when it's off cooldown, you're pretty much set, right? Or you put a Medica 2 out here and there. It's not difficult, but I think I don't think that the healing for normal content is going to be much more difficult. Even if they do decide to tune rating for having to heal more, I don't think that the normal content will follow suit. I don't think, because there's a lot of people that there's a lot of casual players that struggle to heal content as it is. So that's how I feel about it.
So if there's going to be a big gap between, and then initial Shadowbringers is not going to attempt to close that gap. I think RollQuest is them trying to make an attempt at kind of that like veteran Hall of the Novice, like upper end, like, and by tying it to the 5.0 content is really clever because it allows them to then say, okay, now we can do RollQuest for 6.0, and anything that's changed within the battle system, if the role quests suddenly become like optional content, then you're not teaching bad habits. Because one of the hard thing about like expanding on Hall of the Novice is like, if you try to teach a Black Mage how to play, at what level range? Like Black Mage changes drastically. And so by tackling it by role, you're allowing them to just focus on the bigger concepts, like don't stand in bad, keep your rotation up. I don't care what the abilities are, those concepts remain constant. Like it sounds like, I mean, there's going to be a gap between casuals and hardcore, but it sounds like they've got enough to cover the gap. So like 5.1, for example, sounds loaded. Like 5.1 just feels like, it already felt like we were getting a ton at 5.0. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, New Game Plus is probably 5.1. It's like, okay. And then, the new raid is 5.1. Okay. And then PvP's 5.1. Okay. And like,
Blue
it
Mage
just,
is 5.1.
like, and Blue Mage is 5.1. And it's like, if 5.1 gets all this stuff, I mean, is there going to be like content burnout? And on top of that, what are you most excited about in 5.1? Because that sounds like it's a totally different expansion we're getting this fall after we're done getting the stuff we just learned about.
5.1 is going to be insane, I think. There were so many parts to that question. So if we're going on to like what I'm excited for in 5.1, I think nothing can top the 24-man. The 24-mans throughout all of Final Fantasy have been some of my favorite parts of the game. So I'm incredibly hyped for that. Even if the whole Nier thing didn't sit right with me at first, that's probably what I'm the most excited for 5.1. There's just something about going into a dungeon with 24 people and just seeing everybody there, and you never know what's going to happen. That's the other part that I love about it as well. You never know if randomly Alliance A is just going to die out of nowhere, and all of a sudden you have to start raising their tanks, and like, I don't know. I just love the chaos of it is something that I find really fun. And it's just different to the rest of the content because Savage, it's all scripted, and so exactly what, if you've studied the fight, you know exactly what's going to happen at every second. And then for 24-mans to come along and everyone runs in, especially on the first day, and everyone just runs in on the first day and just try to bash their head against stuff and hoping something works. Like, I don't know if you guys did I never know the actual name of it because I always use the meme name for it, but the Wiping City of Mark, what's the actual name?
Weeping City.
Weaving City of Mark, when that came out, oh my lord, that was some of the most fun I've had in this game, trying to do Ozma with a bunch of people that just had no clue what was going on.
I love day one. And
day one is the best.
It is when the most toxicity comes out in the community, but it's also just chaos.
Yeah, it's so good.
So I'll kind of take. I have a different question here. Obviously, being from Australia, you've moved more to the EU. But one of the like when we talk with Ethos, when we talk with that, it's like Australia feels somewhat underrepresented. You're in this, like, you're playing it on JP servers, or you can play on EU or on North America, and there's not really like the best option, right? Because English speaking, great. Okay, the ping in and of itself, like, I always kind of weep for ninja mains in Australia, because that's a very ping heavy job itself. But I think I've heard, and maybe I'm not saying it's fact, but I heard that Yoshi P is planning on making an appearance in Australia as a part of this going forward. And with the ever expanding growth of the game, I mean, the 14 community has just, I mean, really benefited, off the backs of the frustration around BFA, but just in the fact that they deliver constant, awesome quality content. So it's kind of a two-part question, though. Australian servers, like, is there any hope for players down there, or is there, like, what's your perspective on it? Because, like, do they get their own data center? Does that then segment it off? Like, it's like, I don't know how to feel, because I would hate to be like, oh yeah, now they're off on their own, and can the community itself, like, have like a active Australia, or I don't know how that would end up working out, because I'm sure there's other islands in the area that would be like, great.
Yeah.
Finally.
There's a lot of issues that come with implementing an Oceanic server now into the game. There's just so much on where to start. But firstly, yes, Yoshi has said that he may make an appearance at a certain convention in Australia. So he has said, but it's not set in stone. It's still in May.
Mm-hmm.
He knows we exist. He's known of the issues of Australia for a long time. When A Realm Reborn launched, it was not too terribly long after he visited Sydney, and he tried to do Titan hard mode from his laptop in Sydney. And he said in the interview, he was like, I was so embarrassed because I couldn't dodge anything because the ping was so bad. And to be fair, Titan was so ridiculously hard for Australians when it first came out because we couldn't dodge anything. But then when it comes to adding
pre-dodge, you had to be like, because I had a Titan hard is actually how I found I had a problem with my motherboard on my old computer, because I was like, why am I getting hit by everything? I go do like a speed test. I'm like, why does it say I'm getting 5 megabits a second? I'm paying for 75. Every system in the house is at 75. This one desktop, for some reason, the motherboard was having a problem. Soon afterwards, it died, and then I got a new motherboard, and that had a working network card, and I was like, not a problem. like okay, we're good. But like, even Chris had an issue when he was in Washington, and he had to like also fundamentally, had to shift his mindset that whenever that issue wasn't, he struggled to kind of adjust because he was betting on things because he had to adjust that way. Sorry, but I cut you off. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah, you're right. We had to anticipate the mechanics. I remember for the Weight of the Lands, was it the puddles? We had to move before they appeared. If you waited for them to appear, even if you hit that button when they appeared, you were still gonna die. You had to literally know when they were gonna come and start moving. Obviously not moving too early that your puddle was off center, but still moving at the right. It sucks. It sucks so bad. But the other issue with adding an Oceanic server is that a lot of the Australians that do play, we've kind of found our communities on these other servers. We have friends on these other servers. So there's a lot of people that have said that even if they added an Oceanic server, they wouldn't even join because they have friends on JP or they have friends on NA and they don't want to leave those friends because obviously when you're playing an MMO, the people you play with completely change your experience with the game. So that's another issue. And then there's the issue on top of that is that a lot of Southeast Asia would want to join in on the server as well. So it would need to be placed somewhere that was appropriate for them as well, because a lot of them would prefer to be on an English speaking server than on a Japanese speaking server. But in saying that, with 14 kind of really steamrolling, and they're trying to pick up new players and they're really trying to like become the MMO over WoW and stuff, having an Oceanic server is something they are eventually going to have, because there's so many players that don't play 14 at all, purely because there's no Oceanic server. So I think just by adding one, you would get an influx of people coming in and playing the game.
So do you think that content drives that when like forming communities? Like, I mean, the trust system, obviously people are worried that that's going to pull people out of the community, but then you have things like Eureka where they drove people back into a community to the point they're like, we're going to intentionally make aspects of the game not work because we think that when we get to Baldezi and Arsenal, even though you guys are complaining, you don't know about BA yet. And then BA comes out and it's like, oh, it all makes sense. Like this BA in my mind gave so much context to the Relic. I've been complaining this whole time. And it's like, I've been in a car ride with my parents and I'm like, oh, I'm so uncomfortable in the car. Are we there yet? And then we get there and it's this amazing place. And they're like, yeah, I've been listening to you whine in the back seat for, you know, this whole expansion. And then we get there and it's like, oh, now you're happy. Now a few of you are jealous you got out of the car early. So like, do you feel that that will help with that sense of community? Like if Australia ends up moving onto its own, they'll still kind of, ideally those things still help kind of foster new communities to pop up.
Yeah, it's really tough to know it's really tough to know if Oceanic servers can really hold their own when it comes to a community. For example, like MapleStory 2 had an Oceanic one, but the population just wasn't really there. There wasn't really a high enough amount of people on it, so it made doing things kind of tough. WoW's Oceanic server, from what I know, is very heavily tied into the American one. So whenever there's not enough people playing on the Oceanic one, it just populates. It kind of just merges the two servers together, which causes lots of issues again for both players because some people are playing with higher ping than they want. So I think it's kind of been shown that Oceanic servers are problematic because of this. There's not enough raw numbers of people. So I don't know. I'm unsure if we're ever gonna get one. I don't hold any hopes that we will, but it would be awesome.
I think kind of to wrap up before we get into our final thoughts, it would be I think the solution might end up being something as they develop the technology, because with the data centers and with cross-world, like Yoshi P has talked about, going to mega servers in that sense. So essentially the next step would be cross-data center matching and building that community from there. So even if at some point they do add that data center, it ends up, you know, all of the data centers, all the servers are all acting essentially as kind of one community, one giant mega server, and then you can play and have it relay. And as hopefully with technology, with the speed of the internet increasing worldwide, like maybe in 10 years it's like, yep, non-issue. You know, it's not an issue wherever the servers are. We've figured it out fundamentally, as long as like the speed of light still remains constant.
Yeah. The other like small thing with it is that to have servers somewhere, you need to have a physical location for them to be. And as far as I'm aware, Square Enix doesn't have any headquarters in Australia anywhere at all. So they would either have to like have a third party agreement or set up somewhere for them to exist.
Yeah,
that's the other thing.
So final thoughts here. Like obviously we're just really looking forward to the 28th as this podcast airs on Monday, like 5 days from now. What do you want people to know? What do you got planned for them on your stream? Where can they find you?
I mean, I'm going to be going straight into the main story quest. So I know there's a lot of people that are like, I don't want to be spoiled, so I'm not going to come by. And that's totally understandable. But know that when you're done with the main story quest, I'll be there. I'll be farming the crap out of those primals. I'll be trying to get whatever the equivalent of the dog is. And just like, I think I'm going to be streaming literally every single day. That's what I did when Stormblood launched. I was streaming 7 days a week. It's constantly playing because, like I was saying earlier, that feeling of community is never stronger than when an expansion launches. And it's just, that's why I play an MMO, because I play with other people. And there's so many people. And even if something like Railbarn X happens again, we make it fun. Like, the amount of memes and the amount of fun and craziness that came out of things like Railbarn X, come on, like it's the best. So I'm very excited for all of it and everything that's going to happen next week.
Chris.
I mean, I'm just excited. I'm blown away by how much content there's going to be in 5.0. So like, even if you remove other things going on in my life, like trips my wife and I have planned, and like my brother is moving to Dallas, which I'm excited about, and like WoW Classic is dropping, and then we came out of E3 and found out there's a decent winter lineup and a huge spring lineup. Before you even factor that in, if you just assume my only interest in the whole world is Final Fantasy, 5.0, how do I get all the classes that I can leveled up before the trial starts dropping, before Savage starts dropping? And then I'm like, okay, that's fine. And then I can catch up in 5.1, because historically in the 0.1, 3, and 5, it's like, okay, I clear the raid enough times, I'm comfortable with it, now I can go back to what I was working on. But then 5.1 is like, no, as soon as you clear the raid and you're done with that, you're going to go see what the new Blue Mage is about. Then you're going to go try New Game Plus. And then and so like, I don't see where the break is. Like, I'm excited by that, but like, I don't see, it feels like they are really pushing out the content. It just feels like for the first time, like, I don't know, we might be able to make it all the way to 5.2, 5.3 before we get that historic Yoshi P, like, you sure you take breaks? I built him in for a reason moment. It's like, no, just keep playing. So I'm excited about that.
It's going to be really good. People keep asking me about what my game plan is, what Chris' game plan is. So we actually have videos up on the channel right now. If you guys want to go see kind of a detailed breakdown of what we're working on, we'll probably do a kind of a collab on that for next week. Just kind of like take the comments and kind of smush them together, because we did a Final Fantasy XIV Shadowbringers draft. So we drafted the jobs that we're going to be responsible for. Chris has some catching up to do, because I have
down like sub level 30.
Yeah, so he's either gonna have to do a lot of work, or he's gonna just have to get a jump potion or something just to get caught up with the expansion. It depends on I'll let him choose whatever he wants to do with that. So I'm staged and ready. And the thought is that like I'm gonna obviously focus on my 8 jobs, getting them, mastering them, building out the guides for everybody, and that's gonna help me out a lot. The fact that Chris is taking the other half of that coin. But then at the same time, like once I kind of have all that done, I think I probably will level up the other jobs, because if we do another draft, I don't want to be sitting here like, no, it's at 70. Like now I have to like grind all that in a couple weeks. Like, so we'll see. We've got 2 years, etc. But we're hoping to be able to release a ton of content on the world as it persists over the course of the next week, but as we go into July. So hold on to your butts, everybody, because it's going to get crazy. So that's it, Harry. We're you're on Twitch, you're on Twitter. We'll include all the links in the description of this video over on YouTube and Spotify and wherever podcasts are found. So go check him out. Give him a follow, give him a like. Be sure you say hi when you do. Like he said, he's going to be live 7 days a week, so you should be able to catch him at some point. And the being that he streams from the EU, figure out the time zones, people.
I'm sorry, America.
Time is hard.
It is like, what zone time? Okay, great. So
especially because you're CEST and we're CST, so I was like,
yeah, it's so confusing. Central European summertime looks very close to Central Eastern time, or whatever it's called.
Yeah.
So.
Anyway,
Central Standard. It's super boring.
Yeah, super boring. Central Standard. Anyway, guys, that wraps up for this podcast. Thanks for everybody hanging out on live. Thanks everybody watching this video. Please let us know. Share the video, do all the social media stuff. That'll be fantastic. But for Work to Game, my name is Brian.
My name's Chris.
And
it's
I'm
Harry. Featured on Twitch soon and has another podcast coming up.
Yeah, that's right. We didn't.
But we will.
Like, yeah, you got you're gonna be on a podcast, and you're also got you're gonna be featured on Twitch, right?
Yeah, so I'm going to be on the front page of Twitch on the 30th of June with Shadowbringers, which should be a good time. That's also for Pride Month at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And then, tomorrow I'm on a podcast as well, talking about what it's like being an LGBTQA plus caster on Twitch, and the differences, the difficulties that we have to go through.
Yeah.
Differently to everyone else.
Make sure you hit us up with the the link and the information for that, so we can include it in the description below as well, so people can kind of go check that out as well, because that'd be really great. And congrats also, the 30th. That's going to be great. We'll be checking you out.
Yes. Front page with that juicy Shadowbringers MSQ spoiling for everybody.
Hopefully by the 30th, you've got the MSQ knocked out. I mean, I don't know.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
The final spoiler.
All right. Well, that wraps up episode 25 of the podcast. Thanks again, Harry. Thanks again, Chris. Thanks again, chat. We love you guys all so very much. Hope you have a phenomenal week. It's going to be 5 days, guys. Lots of exciting things to come. We'll see you next time.
Enjoy Shadowbringers, everyone.
Hey, it's me. It's been a while since I talked to you guys directly like this way, but don't tell anybody. We've got even more epic content planned for this channel. The response has been incredible. We hope to see you. If you're new, hit subscribe, leave us a comment. I'd like to talk to you more about video games. I can't seem to speak my language. All right.